Hey there, and welcome to Fan Theory Queries, where we analyze fan theories from all over the internet, but mostly Reddit. I'm Laura.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And welcome to Obscure Disney Movie Fan Theory Day. We will be talking about a fan theory from Brave.
Yes.
I don't think it's an obscure movie.
I always think it's so funny when the reference in Ralph Breaks the Internet with all the Disney princesses, and Merida is talking and nobody can understand her. Like she came from the other studio.
Well, it's because her accent's so thick, right?
Her
She's
accent
speaking in,
is
like,
so thick in that
Scotticisms.
movie. Yeah, and they can't understand a word she's saying, and so that's what they just chalk it up to, is that she came from the other studio.
It's really funny.
I love that scene with when Vanellope meets all the princesses. Anyway, we're here to talk about Brave. So this theory is that the Will O the Wisps are the real villains of Brave, and this comes from user Cheese and Onion Crisps.
Nice.
For a lot of people, the first time they heard about Will O the Wisps was from the cute little ghosts in Brave. What they probably didn't realize is that Will O the Wisps are actually real. They're weird lights that appear over marshes sometimes. Since there's no obvious explanation for them, even nowadays, a lot of folklore has risen up around them. What's interesting is that most, if not all, folklore about them describes them as malevolent. Sometimes they're spirits of the dead, but more often they're candles or lanterns held by fairies or pixies. They usually lead travelers deep into the marshes where they get lost and drown, probably because this actually happened a lot in real life and the stories were told as cautionary tales. In Scotland, the Will O the Wisps also goes by the name Spunky and is one of the worst ones out there, as it has even been blamed for shipwrecks. Scottish folklore says that these lights are the ghosts of the dead, which fits with Brave's Will O the Wisps, who are also revealed to be ghosts. But are Brave's wisps evil? Yes. Yes, they are. In fact, they're responsible for everything bad that happens in the film. The first time we see the wisps, they lead Merida out of the woods and back to her family. This might seem like a good thing, since her father is then able to save Merida from Mordieu. But the incident leads to her father losing his leg, and very, very nearly his life. Which is a bit much when you consider that the wisps could probably have just led Mordieu away instead. The next time we meet them, they lead Merida to the witch's house, which is where she gives Merida the tart that will turn her mother into a bear. This then leads the main conflict in the movie, making the wisps already more of antagonists than Mordieu, who presents more of an immediate threat when he does appear, but doesn't really influence future events. The next time, the wisps cut out the middleman in their mission to get Merida eaten by a magic bear and just lead her straight to Mordieu. Sure, she finds out how to solve the puzzle, but she's nearly eaten in the process, and the puzzle only needs to be solved because the wisps led her to the witch. The last time the wisps appears at the end, when they lead Merida to her mother in time to save her. This has to be a good deed, right? Yes. Except, guess who turns up only a few minutes later?
Is it Mordieu?
Mordieu. That's who. Kind of suspicious, isn't it? That Mordieu seems to appear whenever the wisps do? Almost as if Merida isn't the only one being led to places. When he's crushed by a Marnier in the battle, his spirit becomes a Will O the Wisp. So they've definitely gained from this whole incident. Mordieu, interestingly enough, is actually the prince from the fairy tale Merida's mother tells her. The first time this is hinted to us is when the witch mentions that she gave the exact spell she gives Merida to a prince who wanted to change his fate. To change his fate! Doesn't that sound familiar? While the film shows that it is possible to just happen upon the witch's cottage, it seems unlikely that the prince would go in and ask the crazy woodcarver for a spell, unless, of course, he'd been led there by some magical creatures, and so already knew that something magic was happening. So it's entirely possible, and I think very likely, that the wisps are responsible for the existence of Mordieu. The fact that he becomes one is very interesting as well. Even when he wasn't a bear, Mor'du didn't seem like a very nice guy. He did start a war against his own brothers and cause the downfall of a whole kingdom after all. This suggests that the Will o' the Wisps could be made up exclusively of the ghosts of bad people, which explains why they do bad things. One last point. The one thing we are frequently told in the film is that the Will o' the Wisps lead you to your fate. This is a... I don't know. There's something about the word fate. I have to do it.
Fate. I know.
This is a bit weird when you consider that the whole moral of the story is that it is better to find... I won't do it. Find your own fate and write your own story. To find your own fate and write your own story. The idea of having some preset future already laid out for you is seen as bad, and the film is all about Merida trying to avoid or change her fate, and then being punished for that by the Wisps. However, leading people to their fate does fit pretty well with the folklore, since actually finding your fate is usually seen as a bad thing. When you hear that somebody met their fate, you don't say, cool, was there a fate to be given a really nice chocolate cake? No. You assume that the person has died.
I love that.
So by leading people to their fate, the Wisps could be said to be leading them to their deaths.
Wow.
There, that wasn't so bad.
I think that may be the most times you've said the word fate within 5 minutes.
No, or in her life, maybe?
Probably, yeah. And yes, definitely. I was about to make a joke about Fate, Texas, but I don't think I can do it. I'm not as witty as you, Spencer.
I forgive you.
Okay, so I didn't even poll the audience before we started. Everybody here has seen the movie Brave, right?
I have.
Everything was just spoiled for me.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I've seen it.
You,
It's a good movie. I like it.
It is really good. I like it a lot. The girls like it.
Yeah.
Emma likes the music. It's fun.
You know, I forgot that the Will o' the Wisps were in this movie.
It's funny. I think when I first started watching, or when we first watched it, was after I had read like the first or second Outlander books. I've read through all of that series so far, and it does touch on Celtic folklore, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they're scared of in Celtic folklore. They have a lot of creepy things. And yes,
they
Will o'
were
the
very
Wisp
superstitious.
was kind of very superstitious and a lot of things to be scared of. I mean, everything.
Yes.
And
Well, I mean, look where they live. That area of land would be
it's
scary. And
spooky.
just
It's got to be spooky.
foggy, and stormy.
I think it
and
sounds
wet.
lovely, personally.
Oh, I do. I've like Scotland and Ireland are two places I want to visit.
I have to
Not
say
the
I
only
wouldn't
two.
want to live there.
that I was in Edinburgh for 2 days, and it was the best 2 days of my life. Like, the second I got off the train, I instantly felt like this feels like home to me. And so it is
Wow,
my
you need to get
goal,
out
my
more.
life goal, to move to Scotland. So any Scottish listeners, if you have a home that you'd be willing to let me stay in, hit me up.
We have a Scottish patron.
Oh, we do?
Anyway, sort of.
Okay. So we are all on the same page about like what the Will o' the Wisps do. They're the little blue floating lights is basically how they look, and they make just this little sound whenever they show up, and that they don't have that much of a malevolent presence about them. And
No.
it is very surprising that Merida, growing up there, hearing the folklore, she's not scared of them at all or suspicious. She immediately starts
Well,
following them.
Because she's brave.
Good one.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, well then, I don't know how else to direct conversation about this unless we just go to the
Well,
comments.
well, I have a question, not a question. Well, maybe, see, it's one of those things where I don't know if I want to save it for my. Yeah, you can just go into the comments.
Okay, yeah, save it for your rating. So let's start off with user Avon Lanzer commented, "Fate is negative, destiny is positive. Forgetting the difference is why people follow the will o' the wisp. Also, when I watched the movie, I somehow assumed the wisps were working with or for the witch. Not sure where I got that, but maybe they were."
Hmm.
Yeah, I never thought that.
Interesting.
No.
Yeah.
I like will o' the wisps are wild, untamed. They don't work for anybody.
Yeah.
Almost like a
I mean, so
dementor.
one of the things that I was gonna bring up was it kind of ties into what the theory said that they led Merida to the witch's place, but then when she tries to go find it again, she's the witch's hut or whatever, and it's not there.
Yeah.
She's not following the wisps, so that was an interesting thing. So I could see why maybe they thought that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that they worked together because of that. Okay.
Possibly.
And our next comment comes from user J Ruff. "The nature of the will of the wisp is pretty much explicitly laid out by the movie. The will of the wisp is the spirit of the prince whose body transformed into Mordu, which is somehow operating separately from the bear. When the stone crushes Mordu, the will of the wisp emerges from the stone and transforms into the prince. He thanks Merida and then disappears. The will of the wisp lost control of his body in the same way Helena was losing control of herself in bear form. The will of the wisp was orchestrating events to kill himself by changing the fate of Merida and Helena." What?
So what they're saying is they wanted to kill the bear so that he could free himself. But that doesn't work if
With the theory.
it's well it doesn't work. How can it be operating separately from the bear? Because if he's already a will o' the wisp and he wants to be released from the bear, and when he is released from the bear, he becomes a will o' the wisp. Like, it doesn't make any sense in
Well,
my
that's
mind.
what
At least
this.
the way they
I
explained
think
it.
this commenter is saying he doesn't become a will o' the wisp. His spirit is freed, and he gets to go on to the
It's freed.
afterlife.
Okay. I see. Okay.
So then
I don't know
maybe
if I agree with that.
what they're trying to say is like the will o' the wisps like felt pity for the prince being manipulated by the witch. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe the will o' the wisp saw Merida as a way to right the wrong that the witch had caused, and so that Mordu would be freed. But why would they care is the question for that.
Because they're not necessarily evil. So maybe
In
this
in
comment
their
is
book.
disproving
Because it's a Disney movie?
the OP's theory. Yeah.
Yeah, so going against the usually accepted folklore, they're trying to Disneyfy the will o' the wisp and make them a force for good.
Well, let's look back
Possibly.
at, just real quick, let's look at this, because, let's look at the appearances. So she leads them away, or the father leads Merida away, and then the father loses his leg, almost his life, but they could have just as easily led Mordu away. Why does the bear attack the father? That's why he loses his
Yes.
leg? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay. And that's Mordu. That's Mordu?
Yes.
Okay. So, the next time is, of course, getting to the witch's house, and then leads her to Mordu, and then the next one. So it does pretty much all involve Mordu, except for specifically when she goes to the witch's house, but still somewhat connected because it turns her mother into a bear like Mordu.
I think
So
the
it's all directly connected to Mor'du somehow.
well, I think the connection is actually with Merida, not Mor'du, because the Will o' the Wisps are always doing stuff for her, which is why they led her away from the danger and didn't really worry about the father being attacked by the bear. They led her to the witch's house.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
Lead her to the witch's house. And then also
I don't
lead
know.
her to Mor'du. Again.
Because they knew that she could handle him this time.
Because she's brave.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, I think we're kind of talking in circles here. So maybe
Yeah.
we should take a little minute to think on it. And then after this ad break, we can come back and rate the theory. All right. So got a little breather there, a little time to think. And we need to rate the theory. But before we do, Michael, need you to roll that beautiful ratings footage.
Because it is his fate.
Yeah.
The highest rating that we have is genius. This is reserved for only the best theories, which we believe are better than the actual canon. The next step down is plausible. It's a good theory, it's believable. Unlikely is next. It's not a terrible theory, but pretty unlikely, as the name suggests. And then the last thing is preposterous. These are the theories that are just stupid. Basically, we're all dumber for having listened to them.
All right. So who wants to rate it first?
Not me.
I'll go. You know, I was a little on board for a bit, but after thinking about it, for me, this is preposterous.
No.
I completely disagree with it. I don't I don't think the Will o' the Wisps were evil, let alone the spirits of the evil people. I think they were just fairies that like to cause chaos, and they took a liking to Merida, so they decided to help her with a few instances and lead her to certain places and whatnot. So, yeah.
So
this
who is the real villain?
fear?
Or is it her mother?
Oh, no. It's not her mother.
No.
She was really mean.
No, she wasn't. All right.
The
So,
real
preposterous.
villain of the movie Brave is fear. And that's
Oh.
my final say. It's preposterous.
Okay.
Okay. May I go next? I've decided.
Yes, you
Okay.
may.
I think that this is genius. I think I do. They are responsible for everything bad that happens in the film.
Why?
And I think, what do you mean why? Because they're evil.
I don't know. You always
They're
ask
the
me
villains.
why.
They're bad because, and as they pointed out in folklore, that the wisps can be evil. They led people to their deaths in real life as well as in folklore. I think that they don't need a reason. They're like the Joker, the Joker of the Wisps, just to be
Wow.
evil and, like Michael, you said, kind of cause chaos. Yeah, and I think that if you're just kind of running around causing chaos because you're little mischievous little balls of light or whatever, I think that's pretty darn evil and villainous, especially if it leads to the deaths of, or potential deaths of people. So genius is my rating.
Very good. I will give this a plausible because, again, I'm relying on the actual folklore that they're drawing on here. And in the more recent years, Disney is trying to be more culturally sensitive and culturally accurate. So if you're going that route, you need to follow what the folklore says, which is Will o' the Wisps are not to be trusted and they're evil. And so, but I do see some merit in they led her away from Mordu when she was little bitty to save her from him, but that did end up getting her dad hurt. So,
Almost killed.
and almost killed. And I don't know. I do see a little bit of maybe they were trying to release Mordu from his body, but then again, like I said earlier, but why? Why do they care about Mordu? So that's why I give it a plausible. There's something there that makes me go. I don't know if I can go full on with genius because I do see some good merits there, but in the end, it was dangerous. Some of the things they led her to do and that she chose to do, and the folklore. So that's why I'm saying plausible.
I think that they led her to those dangerous things in order to spark the bravery within her. It was like trials to put her through
Why?
things because she needed to be
What
brave.
would have made her
Why do they want her to be brave?
what would have made her a better leader was to look at those things and go, that's not a good idea to do, and turn around and go home. That would have made her a better leader.
Well, we all know what it means to be a leader, especially me, as I lead us all into another fascinating movie detail
Yes.
that I discovered on Reddit the other day. So before we end the show, I want to share what Je suis nerd posted on Reddit. You know, as in most Hollywood movies, computers in Morbius used a fake operating system to avoid trademark infringement against Microsoft. Instead, they all run a custom Linux distribution nicknamed MorbiOS.
Okay.
There's about 10 computer nerds listening to this that are dying laughing right now.
Cool. Great job, Spencer. This has been Fan Theory Queries. I'm Laura.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Spencer. In our next episode, we ask, in Wednesday from Netflix, who is the best lichenologist that Enid went to see? Subscribe to Fan Theory Queries so you don't miss out on that and other fascinating fan theories.